From the CISO series, it's Cybersecurity Headlines.
Cyber attacks threaten legal aid collapse. Ohio proposes public input on ransomware payments, and PBS confirms a breach. These are some of the stories that my colleagues and I have selected from this past week's cybersecurity headlines. And now we're looking forward to some insight, opinion, and expertise from our guest, Montez Fitzpatrick, CISO at Navis. Montez, I got to ask, thank you. First of all, thank you so much for being on the Week in Review. It's truly a pleasure to have you here. I got to ask, how was your week in cybersecurity?
I am very glad that today is Friday, and just like a good friend of mine always says, only 2 more days till Monday.
That is the grind set that we need to get us through the Week in Review. I like it, Montez. All right. Before we move on into the news, got to thank our sponsor very quickly today, ThreatLocker, Zero Trust Endpoint Protection Platform. Remember, if you're listening to this show as a podcast, so not live, next week, you too can join us and our loyal band of vocal experts. Just go to YouTube Live and look for the CISO series. You can find the Cybersecurity Headlines Week in Review card there. We always preview who we're going to be having on there, or you can also go to the events page at CISOseries.com. For those of you that are here with us right now, as a Pepsi commercial from my youth said, you could contribute in our chat. We have Kevin Farrell, we have CCL in there. So join them, have some fun with us. Let us know what you think about the news and our presentation of it. Always a good time. And if that's not your bag, feedback at CISOseries.com is how you get in touch with us through email. We love getting your emails and helping make the show better. Just a quick reminder that these are, in fact, Montez's opinions, not necessarily those of his employer, friends, family, or loved ones. We've got about 20 minutes, so let's jump right into the news. First up here, on the existential front, UK legal aid program faces collapse due to cyber attacks. This is follow-up on a story we covered last May. Lawyers in the UK are warning that cyber attacks that occurred in May have pushed the sector into chaos, with barristers going unpaid, cases being turned away, and fears that a growing number of firms could desert legal aid work altogether. Following the attack, the inability for lawyers to access data or get compensated for their services had led to stress and a simple financial inability to maintain their legal aid practice, leading to a possible collapse of the entire system. So, Montez, the media may report about the immediate story of a cyber attack. That's the sexy thing. We can say how many gigabytes were stolen and all that stuff. But the follow-on effects, people losing access to legal protections, less visible, but still extraordinarily critical. Can this type of story serve as an effective case study for CISOs seeking greater corporate support for their departments? I mean, this is the existential risk we're all dreading, right?
What a way to open, Rich. I don't know if this is
chill story. Yeah,
gives us the precursor to what we're going to talk about today. But to delay justice is injustice. We all know that. I find it really hard to believe that every corporate member doesn't understand that information security is extremely important. So we got a problem. And I think the problem might stem from the fact that every non-information security corporate person believes that security is just this really narrow thing that fits into this box that is just confidentiality. And that is, a problem. They have no idea that, the availability and integrity and all that, which, of course, is the other two legs of the stool for the CIA triad, is actually a thing. And that's something that we're always fighting. I don't know how we get past that. So
does this make it incumbent on CISOs and just security practitioners in general to be the crying out about this, right? To spread awareness for this. Is this a warning call for them to be like, we need to show that this isn't just something plunk a check, we lock the door, everything is secure. Is there more that we can do as a community to kind of show these types of cases out here that it isn't enough to think, oh, the department does its job, it's not going to impact business?
Rich, it sounds like you're saying, we should be building bridges, is what you're saying.
That's what I'm asking. Yeah.
And absolutely we should. Absolutely. I think that we do. we're still missing it somehow. And I really wish that I had a much better answer. Like, yes, here's how you solve it. A lot of CISOs, a lot of security practitioners decry this very fact. And then we get to the point of, okay, well, how do we solve this thing that we're decrying? And I just don't know.
We had a comment in our chat here, Mid-Atlantic River Rat. Thank you for the spacing on that. Basically asking, with the growing sophistication of vectors of attacks, will we see organizations revert to paper, abandoned computers? I would say if you look at healthcare and other extraordinarily mission critical organizations like that, they already have those systems in place. Now, it's not the primary means of doing it. I don't know if we're going to full Battlestar Galactica highly segment individual systems and that kind of stuff. But that option is on the table for some industries where, especially healthcare, where there's, potential damage and loss of life is an option there too. Montez, any thought on that?
Oh, this Pandora's box is open. There's no way we're going to go back to paper. Now, never say never, obviously. Yes. And so, as I have done some work in healthcare, that in some cases, the emergency mode operations plans for some covered entities, right, the people who are providing healthcare treatment, payment, or other operations, is actually paper in some cases as a fallback to a fallback to a fallback. So in some ways, right, I think that is the case because of the nature of it. But I think increasingly as we become more reliant on these digital boxes, right, and even in healthcare, that doing it on paper will not be, there just won't be enough there. Like, it would be very difficult to give, as we're talking about healthcare, to do healthcare without knowing, having all the information that's available to the providers, the physicians.
I mean, I just think of every Excel wizard that's out there and asking them to do, run the payroll off of a paper ledger. Like that's. I mean, maybe if it was, existential, you would have to, but no one's going to be choosing that anytime soon.
You see your comptroller there with the abacus there.
Yeah,
flipping the beans back and forth.
Threat actors might not give them a choice. I think that that's the anxiety that Mid-Atlantic River Rat. By the way, phenomenal. But yeah, no, thank you for the question. Really appreciate it. Next up here, Ohio's new cybersecurity rules include public approval of ransomware payments. The state of Ohio, heart of it all, has enacted new cybersecurity rules requiring all local governments to implement formal policies and publicly approve any ransomware payments. The move was passed as part of the state's budget and follows a wave of cyber attacks on municipalities like Cleveland. Lawmakers say the new measures should increase transparency and improve defenses against increasingly sophisticated attacks that jeopardize constituent data and local infrastructure. This applies to local governments in Ohio, not the private sector. And on the surface, I don't know, think it sounds like a decent idea. I'm curious, Montez, do you feel that in any state, the public should be involved, though, in such a decision? It's one thing, transparency, another kind of involved in the decision. Given the LegalAid story we just covered, would it create more problems than it solves? Do taxpayers have a right to such a role?
So, Rich, you're a newsman, so that anytime a question is asked in the title, right? What's in the headline? The answer is always no, right? And so anytime the public or a government says that, well, this is going to increase transparency and do all these sorts of things that brings in the constituency, will it? And so, no. My honest thought, I love this story, and absolutely our officials should not be officiating it and doing things in a dark room.
Is there any danger with this for fear that public says no, right? City government is all locked down, stuff like that. Whenever there's these mandatory or more transparent, right, ransomware payments, the counter argument to it is always, this will just drive these, they'll find a way to make these payments transparently because the cost of doing business is always worth it. to pay the ransom, right? From the individual business's perspective, it's almost always worth it to pay the ransom. So these kind of requirements just drive these kind of payments underground and out of transparency. Is there? I don't know. I always feel those are defeatist, right? There's no there's no hope, right? Nothing's ever going to happen. But like, is there any merit to those kind of arguments?
Well, I think you're saying that our representatives might do funny math. Never.
I know, great for public dollars. Yeah.
Right. And so when I did research this and I looked at it, what I thought was like, oh, so the public isn't really going to be involved in the decision. I think that really, when you look at the details of this, that it's like, oh, it's something that will be passed as a resolution or something like that, which basically says that we're going to let you know after we decide to do what we're going to do, which I think is a step forward, right? And so I think that's good, but yeah, just as far as them involving the public in the decision making, yeah, absolutely, that's not going to happen. I just can't see that.
And CCL points out in our chat, even if there's a slight chance that ransomware can't be paid, that might be enough for IT leads to either fight for improving security or get burned from every side. I know CCL has some strong thoughts anytime these, pay the ransom stories come up. So I always appreciate that perspective. Really great. And I got to shout out, Zachary Lewis wants you to have your own show, Montez.
Man. That's right.
So we'll have Montez on as much as he wants to be, because I'm in agreement, Zachary. We will take advantage of Montez's expertise and velvety smooth voice. Next up here, PBS confirms data breach after employee info leaked on Discord servers. This story is being brought to you by the letters P, I, and I. PBS has confirmed a data breach after a file containing contact info from nearly 4,000 employees and affiliates was leaked on Discord servers tied to PBS Kids fan communities. The data includes names, job titles, emails, departments, and supervisors. PBS says the breach came from its internal mypbs.org platform and that no other systems were impacted. This is not actually really a hacking story so much as it's a data leak story. It does not appear to be a theft of data by an organized threat group for exploitation purposes. Instead, as Believing Computer puts it, the young adults, teenagers, kids sharing the file seem to be doing it out of a sense of novelty, rebellious curiosity, simply gain a little notoriety in their peer group. Hey, we're leaking PBS info. The fact remains that data was accessed by non-professionals, that these names and addresses may be even more dangerous in the wrong hands, given that there is a large degree of trust built into the PBS brand, particularly the PBS Kids brand. A PBS spokesmuppet has alleged to have said, Elmo doesn't like having Elmo's address stolen. I'm curious, Montez, what lessons can be learned from a non-professional breach like this?
Oh, sorry, Rich. I was looking around for my sniffer of brandy because this reminds me of the good old days.
Okay.
And, this is, this sort of takes me back. And, I would say this is hacking, right? Because this is sort of reminds me of, in my youth, not that I would have done anything like this. I certainly didn't, right? I'm a upstanding citizen of these United States, and but may have hung around the shady IRC channel back in the early 2000s. Spent a little time there trying to learn some stuff, and absolutely this just sort of reminds me of that. And what it really is tantamount, I think, is the fact that there is a lot of attack surface. And there are a lot of elements that we just need to be very good stewards of, and we just haven't solved that. And the fact that PBS sort of downplays it the way that they are is, I guess that is, part of the whole PR spin of it. But no, it's pretty serious, right? This is pretty serious. We have to protect what we have to protect, and it's very difficult. It's very difficult to do so.
All right, before we move on to our next story, I have to spend a few moments and thank our sponsor for today, ThreatLocker. ThreatLocker is a global leader in zero-trust endpoint security, offering cybersecurity controls to protect businesses from zero-day attacks and ransomware. ThreatLocker operates with a default deny approach to reduce the attack surface and mitigate potential cyber vulnerabilities. To learn more and start your free trial, Visit threatlocker.com/CISO. That's THREATLOCKER.com/CISO. All right, next up here, Google says hackers stole its customers' data by breaching its Salesforce database. Google says hackers linked to the Shiny Hunters group breached one of its Salesforce databases containing small business contact information. While only basic and largely public data was taken, the attackers used voice phishing to gain access. The breach is the latest in a string of Salesforce-related incidents following attacks on Cisco, Qantas, Pandora, and many others. Those are just the big names. But Montez, this seems to be the most recent elephant in the room, a breach of Salesforce databases. Hey, look, a threat, a surface that threat actors could attack. Who knew? And we have covered many cases of it the past few weeks of high-profile companies getting hit by the Shiny Hunters group. But really, the elephant isn't necessarily Salesforce. I think it's voice phishing, which is the technique Shiny Hunters and others are using to get access to victims' cloud-based Salesforce databases. I'm curious, as a CISO, what advice do you have to address this voice phishing threat that seems to be growing in popularity?
And see, here I thought you were going to hit me with a supply chain attack question, but no, the voice one is good. And so this maybe does this bring back or breathe new life into the thing that we all thought was super dead, knowledge-based authentication. I think maybe, probably not, but maybe. I think organizations especially we're going to have to work MFA into the service desk.
Yeah, I mean,
process. Yeah,
that seems. I don't want to say it seems table stakes, but it seems so obvious, right? That now is clearly where we're seeing a gap in, whether you want to call it business logic or something like that, right? Like the need to get this done fast, right? The reason these are effective is because you can put a lot of social pressure on people, right? To get past these, and if it sounds good enough and you can get through that way, it suddenly becomes very easy for a lot of groups to take advantage of that. All right, next up here, Luxembourg suffers attack on its Huawei systems, knocking out mobile service. As posted in The Record, Luxembourg's government announced on Thursday it was formally investigating a nationwide telecommunications outage caused last week by a cyber attack reportedly targeting Huawei equipment inside its national telecoms infrastructure. This attack impacted the country's 4G and 5G mobile networks, making them unavailable for more than 3 hours, and that included access to emergency services, so a big deal. And this is because the country's fallback 2G system became overloaded. Just reminded you of using AT&T network when the iPhone launched. Internet access and electronic banking service were also inaccessible. Statements issued by the country's government said that the attack was intentionally disruptive rather than attempt to compromise the telecom network itself, and that this led to a system failure. But still, from an infrastructure perspective, the willingness for companies or countries to rely on older legacy systems as a fallback is laced with risk, as was the case here. No one ever likes to talk about backups, contingencies, redundancy, but I'm curious, what advice would you have for CISOs that face this type of scenario?
Richard, you picked this one because you like saying Huawei?
I love saying Huawei. I love saying Luxembourg too, and
Luxembourg,
and talking about 2G networks. Those are my three love languages.
And so, yeah, well, I knew it. Okay, so this one is one that I'll have to farm out. As I was I had a conversation maybe a couple of months back with an acquaintance of mine about reliability engineering, and he is firmly over in the operational technology security space. And really, as I think about that conversation and what we really sort of met in the middle on is that the information technology security practices that we use and what's basically accepted as industry accepted practice in a lot of ways negatively affect the availability stool of the CIA triad for those on the operational technology security side. And so there were some things that he said that they had to do on his telecom side that, I'll be quite frank with you, Rich, it made me clutch my pearls a little bit. about some of the things that some of the concessions they had to make to ensure that the service was good. And so now as we talk about this, the convergence of the two, right, between information technology security and operational technology security, what really wins out? And there's a lot of shortcomings. Really, I think the one thing that we preach and harp about on the information side is just the explosion of the data and how much more data there is, and really it's very difficult to have a really good understanding of the data, where the data is, and just a good inventory of it for the sake of security. And maybe similarly on the operational side, it is understanding the control system aspects. I don't know that the operational technology security folks really have a good complete understanding of that.
Yeah, and what stood out to me for this is the idea of, this wasn't a Salt Typhoon type of attack that had a knock-on effect of knocking out service. Their whole thing was, causing that chaos, right? Of knowing that or probably strongly suspecting that 2G backstop wasn't going to hold up with a massive outage, even in a small country, with a fairly limited population. But the idea of this was purely to knock out comms is kind of, that to me, one makes us feel almost like a test case, right? Of hey, we have there's a very limited number of infrastructure providers for 5G, 4G services. You probably count them on your hand, right? And so hey, if we can hit Luxembourg, it's not like people are going to be spinning up a ton of 2G capacity to kind of meet this threat as a backstop going forward, right?
So you say this, for future to come, is what you're saying?
I'm just saying, anytime a plot element reminds me of like Dark Angel, I get very scared, and I just have to check if I can be a bike messenger in the dystopia. That's all I can hope for.
Man, that's something of a deep cut. These days and age, you're a Dark Angel, huh? All right.
All right, and we're going to finish up today with hackers hijacking Google's Gemini AI with a poisoned calendar invite to take over a smart home. It's just all the buzz. This has everything. It has a little something for everybody. Wired has a new report on security researchers who are demonstrating indirect prompt injection attacks by hiding prompts for Gemini in Google Calendar items. At Black Hat, they reported how these prompts could cause Gemini to do things like raise your smart blinds or start a Zoom call every time you tell Gemini, thanks. This will teach you to be polite to the AI. The researchers informed Google of the methods in February, and Google has since deployed mitigations. So Montez, calendars are a regular target for prompt injection attacks. Why not? Everybody uses them. Few people think about the fact that an online calendar is really just a data store, database. While Black Hat hackers drew attention to it with cute stunts, nation-state groups have known about how to hide tools and command and control in them for a while, and it's pretty easy to do. I'm curious, what are your thoughts about how to approach calendar security? A phrase I did not think I would be thinking about this week.
Right. Yeah, that's a wild one. So, calendars are there's more interfaces, more proliferation. We are an increasingly corporatized world. How many people, bring in their corporate tools to their home life? I certainly know that I do, right? We, live and die by the family calendar, right? And one of the things that I think this is, and maybe you'll say, Rich, you'll say, Montez, this is a cop out, and I'll take it. That's okay. But I think that we are essentially, this is a distillation of the same old wave form of the things that we do when we're introducing new technologies, especially as it's allowing data to be executed as code. There is like portable executables, which anybody who's ever dug into portable executables knows that the portable executable itself, the NT loader, does not follow the spec. It will basically run a wet paper bag if you give it to it. And then, of course, the Java casting or JavaScript, JavaScript casting there, right? And so this is really just another case of here we've got data that should be data that's being executed as code. So.
Yeah, and not to downplay the seriousness of this, because Lord knows the problem of portable executables have caused for decades in IT. But the idea, like, I think it's a fairly simple idea, right? Anywhere that you're going to be deploying these AI agents, AI to LLM tools, chatbots, what have you, whatever they have access to that they're effectively going to be scraping is a surface area for these types of injection attacks. Now, does that making defending it easy? No, but I think conceptually there is an understanding of how these prompt injections get started, right? That at least makes me encouraged to be like, all right, I can wrap my head around that. I don't know exactly how you stop it everywhere, if there's any desire to, because we want to roll out every new AI feature immediately, and every business wants to not be behind on the AI race. So Lord knows if we're actually checking any of this stuff. I'm somewhat encouraged that we're understanding what's causing the prompt injections, and it seems to me that yes, we'll have cases like this that'll come up at Black Hat or get a lot of press coverage because it's in some innocuous text field that you didn't think that your AI was scraping or looking at and stuff like that. But it gives me a little, not as much dread, I guess, in this story, although it is amazing that this could just open your blinds or something like that.
You're saying, this will maybe turn out to be that this bad thing is going to be good for everybody. It's going to, have us enforce better secure coding practices and whatnot. You're saying like the rules of acquisition, war is good for business kind of thing?
Yes. Well, and as we all know, peace is good for business.
Peace is also good for business, which is also another rule of acquisition. For sure.
But I'm always cautious because we all know the bigger the smile, the sharper the knife. So we know these AI companies love to smile at us. Mm-hmm. And so that makes me cautious. Again, we can know that these things are going to be crawling is a potential surface for a prompt injection. Is that going to get us to secure them before we deploy it? Probably not. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, that's the reality.
Exactly. All right. Before we get out of here, just a big thank you to everyone in our chat here. We have some love for Mr. Robot. I know I'm behind in my dystopians, near future sci-fi. Sorry about that, CCL. But just thank you to everybody for making it fun in there. The 15 car, I'm glad you appreciate my creepy Elmo voice. Andrew Wilder watching us on the LinkedIn. Everybody that's watching us live, try and bring a friend next week. Let them know what fun it is in the Week in Review. We would love to grow the audience here, just have a little bit more fun, be a little sillier in the chat. We would love to have it. So make sure you tell them to join us next Friday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. Montez, before we get out of here, was there any story that was a thumbs up or a face palm for you this week, either in the rundown or just in the general news of the week?
The one that I liked the most was the one about the PBS, because that really just brought back these, nostalgic elements. Made me think of 25 years ago. So
doing it for the lulz.
Man, doing it for the lulz. That's right.
All right, Montez, where can people find you online if they are so inclined to follow you on the cyberspace?
If they would want to do that, they certainly reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Fantastic. We will have a link. We will have a link to your LinkedIn in our show notes, and you could copy it. If you want to do pen and paper, you could copy that there. I don't know how with pen and paper you visit his LinkedIn, but you can figure that out after you write it down. Well, thank you so much, Montez Fitzpatrick, CISO over at Navis. Thank you so much for your time, for your expertise, for your good humor, and knowledge of the Star Trek Deep Space Nine rules of acquisition. Truly appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Pleasure.
All right. Thanks also to our sponsor for today, ThreatLocker, Zero Trust Endpoint Protection Platform. Also, thanks again to our audience. We can't always get everything up on the screen, but we love seeing you there, and we're looking at it. We're having fun. I know our producer, Steve Prentice, enjoys seeing those as well. Don't forget, you can also send us email feedback at CISOseries.com. Let us know what you think of the show. Remember to please join us next week. First up, we have Super Cyber Friday, where our topic will be hacking burnout, an hour of critical thinking about how security teams get overwhelmed and how to manage it. That starts at 1 p.m. Eastern. Then come on back for that Week in Review starting at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you tell a friend. To register for both, just head over to the events page at CISOseries.com. We have the links that will get you to the places. In the meantime, you can still get your daily news fix every single day through cybersecurity headlines. Give us about 6 minutes. We'll get you all caught up. Until the next time we meet, for myself, for Montez, for our glorious producer, Steve Prentice, for David Spark, and the rest of the CISO Series team, here's wishing you and yours to have a super sparkly day.
Cybersecurity headlines are available every weekday. Head to CISOseries.com for the full stories behind the headlines.